So with springtime finally coming around, it's pretty much the annual time of the year where gamers and nerds alike start turning their heads towards the future that is E3. So E3 has, for the longest time, always been the main highlight of the year when it comes to, receiving large-scale video game-related announcements and reveals. And even though the show has really been dying down, I guess you could say, throughout the last several years, it's honestly still a huge deal within the gaming sphere, within the gaming community, and thankfully, it's going to be making its return this year, though in an online fashion, which honestly is better than nothing. So obviously, due to the ongoing pandemic, an IRO E3 2021 was pretty much already cooked to begin with, even though vaccines are now rolling out, and I think even LA is seemingly pretty much opening things up pretty quickly now. Just E3 as a whole is just way too large to have go on during times like these. Last year's full-on cancellation was understandable, as many of us really didn't realize the scale of what the pandemic was going to become months leading up until what would have been E3 2020. However, luckily this year it seems the heads at E3 planned ahead, making sure we'll receive that E3 goodness that we've been starved of throughout the past year or so, and finally delivering it to us in an all-digital format. So this year, E3 2021, for those of you who may not know, it's going to be taking place from June 12th to the 15th, and we've got a lineup of companies that will be attending or doing something of, I don't want to say doing something of their own, but they'll be attending, doing their own thing as part of E3 2021, as part of the digital showcase. That lineup is Xbox, Capcom, Konami, Ubisoft, Take-Two Interactive, Warner Bros. Games, and probably most surprisingly, Nintendo. More on that in a bit. Now, just as a heads up, this is sort of the lineup so far. Obviously, it's still pretty early. I mean, we're in the beginning of April. There is a chance that more companies could be added to this list. Who knows? But as of now, that's the lineup. That's the official lineup that the company or that E3 has tweeted out. So yeah, I mean, I'll take whatever we can get at this point. So I'm pretty sure a lot of heads are already turning, regarding who's missing from this lineup, which companies are missing that are normally have an E3 presence. Most notably missing is, of course, Square Enix, Bethesda, and of course Sony, all of which have held their own press conferences at the show over the years, but for some reason are completely absent from this year's lineup. It's a bit weird, honestly, especially with it being the start of a new console generation and everything. You think companies would want to make a huge boom presence at the largest gaming industry event in the world, even though it's taking place online, but it seems that more than likely these guys are planning to do, some sort of event or some sort of show of their own at some point, perhaps during the same week. We already know that Sony has been attempting to replicate Nintendo's announcement broadcast format in their own, state of play. I think it was. Is it state of the game or is it state of play? I think it's state of play, right? Their state of play broadcast as of recent, so it's quite likely that what they have up their sleeve, that's what they have up their sleeve. I'm assuming they're going to do something like that. It'll probably honestly happen during the same week. It's something they would do. They would probably do it the same week. As far as Square goes, I suppose they've been doing something similar recently, but I can't really say the same for Bethesda. We know they've partnered with Microsoft now. That was like a huge thing. I think last year they announced that they'd be partnering with Xbox now for their releases. So a lot of what they have in store might just be set aside for Xbox's show, but hey, who knows? It's still early, I guess. So the main entity that I did want to spend this video talking about, however, is Nintendo. Oh, Nintendo, how our relationship is so very difficult. It's just difficult. So since I want to say 2012, Nintendo hasn't really held their own press conference as part of E3. They've had directs taking place during E3, sure. They've had a presence on the E3 show floor, sure. But their announcements have never really gone in tandem with E3 operations, at least since 2012, but it seems like that might actually be changing this year. Surprise, surprise. And I want to spend some time talking a bit about that Now, generally speaking, I'd say that Nintendo only really shows up to shows not of their own to announce new things if it's 1, involves a next-gen hardware product, or 2, involves an event of some sort that's open to the general public / attendees. Obviously by now, you probably know where this is going, but first let me touch on this. So not too long ago, the president of Nintendo of America, Doug Bowser, the new president, actually subtweeted E3's 2021 announcement on Twitter. Basically he said the following. He said, "It's going to be great to get the video game industry back together with our fans this June. We'll make the virtual format fun and engaging. Looking forward to seeing you all in June." Now, maybe I'm reading a little bit too much into it, but is it just me, or does Doug Bowser rarely ever do something like this? Honestly, usually Nintendo isn't all that vocal on social media about what events they'll be part of, and personally, I don't feel like they hype things up all that much, especially if they're outside of their control. Like, especially if whatever they're going to be a part of is outside of their control. So what do I think? Well, you guessed it, I'm thinking Nintendo is readying up some big reveals during this year's E3, and one is more than likely going to be a piece of new hardware. This honestly shouldn't come as a surprise to anyone though. Like, we've all been speculating and reading the reports for months now regarding a Switch Pro or a Switch 4K model, which is expected to arrive sometime late this year, I think, or early next year. I think the original plan, from what we've been told, was supposed to come out late this year, but due to the pandemic and stuff, it's probably going to be pushed into very early next year, probably sometime by late March. And while this most definitely will not be a next-gen hardware announcement, it probably will be big enough to the point where you'll want to have most of the industry's developers and public eyes on the product. After all, y'all have spent years literally begging Nintendo to take graphics and performance more seriously on their platform. I mean, obviously that's including myself. And with an enhanced Switch, we may actually finally be stepping into that era rather, where we can actually get a piece of Nintendo hardware that's actually, on par, or at least, slightly on par with some of the more modern systems. Like, just imagine with me for a moment an age where with each new hardware generation, Nintendo launches 2 models of their next gen hardware, like one with lesser specs, or should I say lesser powerful specs, more affordable and friendly for the casual gamer consumer. And then on the other hand, a higher end model focused more on visual fidelity, optimal performance, and extra features that the more core consumer would make use of. We could have the best of both worlds, essentially, something similar to what Microsoft is currently doing with the Xbox Series S and X. And like I mentioned before, I don't think a hardware announcement will be the only major thing they touch on. Announcing an enhanced version of the Switch without finally revealing Breath of the Wild 2 or Metroid Prime 4 developments would be a huge drop off the ball, something Nintendo is definitely akin to, but let's try and remain positive just this once. Now, I'm not going to go way out there and go crazy and start wishing for the Mother 3s and the F-Zeros and the Nintendo 64/GameCube Virtual Console, online games port or whatever, what they're doing with the NES and the SNES games on the Switch. Nothing like that, even though that would be nice, but I just heavily believe that their focus will be on the new model of the Nintendo Switch, basically showcasing what it's capable of while also revealing whatever else they have in store for 2021 launches. It'll be a show of things to come in the immediate future, is kind of my speculation, while only discussing things that are far off if it benefits the overall reveal of the Nintendo Switch Pro or Nintendo Switch 4K, whatever it's going to be called, and its core features and or enhancements. Now, this has always been the way Nintendo has done things, and I don't think they'd switch it up and go crazy now, even though crazier things have happened. All I gotta say is Splatoon 3. Yo, Splatoon 3 is coming, y'all. Holy smokes. I still cannot believe Splatoon 3 got revealed, dude. This soon? I still can't believe it. That's probably the craziest thing, in my opinion, that has been announced this year. Like, in all honesty, I feel like Splatoon 3 just came out of nowhere, but it is what it is. Anyway, what do y'all think the Big N has in store for this year's E3? Are they cooking up something good, or will it be the same, kooky presents we've come to know for the last several years? Who knows? Honestly, I guess sky's the limit. We have been, receiving all these rumors and speculations throughout the past year regarding the new Switch model. So they've been quiet. Overall, they've been quiet. Like, I feel like the last direct we got was sort of a slap in the face. It was like a wake-up slap, like, hey, don't be stupid. We're still here. We're still doing stuff. So, I mean, I just feel like they might just come out swinging at this year's E3. I feel like they're gonna come out swinging. Anyways, y'all can let me know what you guys think in the comments below. What do you think Nintendo is going to be, mainly focusing on during this year's E3? I'd like to know what you guys think. Give me your honest thoughts. Don't give me your whole dream list. Don't give me your whole wish list. Give me your honest thoughts about what you think they're going to reveal, what you think they're going to talk about. I would like to know if you guys enjoyed the video. Also, please be sure to drop a like and hit that sub button. I'll be doing more videos, I don't really want to call this a game chat, but similar videos like this in the near future, so don't want to miss out on any of that content. I'm going to let the rest of this Tetris 99 gameplay play out as I dip off here, but hopefully you guys enjoyed the video. Until next time, y'all keep on gaming, and I'll catch you guys in the next one. Peace.
My poetry's never failed.